lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Amy and I am a cruelty-free makeup enthusiast and blogger. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I hope you're staying safe as well. I'm so excited because it's fall. I've been celebrating all month long. I love the month of October. I have a totally fall outfit on as well in celebration. I'm wearing this hat that I haven't worn in years. I bought this when I was living in Bristol, UK, which is so funny. This hat's very old. I think I bought it at an Urban Outfitters. And then of course I've got my plaid going. My husband and I have been watching so much Supernatural that it's just kind of rubbing off on me, the Salmon Dean plaid. So I did a full beat today. I have like full coverage makeup on, which I haven't done in a really long time, but I digress. Let's get started. I wanted to talk about my favorite fall palettes, actually my entire fall palette collection, which are my favorites. I do love a good fall color story. There's all different kinds. I have a great assortment here to share with you all. Different sizes, prices, brands from independent to larger mainstream, and I hope I don't break everything. Whoop, there we go. It's a lot. So, testing my balance here. Please don't knock any of this down. Okay, I did it. I just really love eyeshadow palettes and I love talking about them, so I hope you enjoy this as well. Let's just get started, shall we? Into a Dose of Colors palette. This one is slightly newer to my collection. I tried this out back in the summer. This is the Cutting Edge from Dose. I love this because there's beautiful olivey green tones in here. There's also a little bit more of this kind of burnt brown here, and then a little bit more of these mustardy kind of shades. So this one is nice and simple. It's only 5 shades, easy to work with, great to blend with. Love Dose's formula. I actually think I'm going to bring it up a little bit so you could kind of see up close. I did do a full video reviewing this palette, so I'll leave that below, but I just love this because green is my favorite color. To me, it screams fall. To follow up with that green story, there is one that's kind of similar to it, and I did compare it when I did my initial review, and that is the Melt... Ooh, there's some smoke going on. I had a candle that just blew out. There we go. This is the Melt Cosmetics Gemini. This one is the beautiful OG palette with the lovely roses on it. And again, you have more of these olivey tone greens, but then you have a really beautiful grungy neutral side as well as the black in here. So it's just a really great palette. I personally love these neutrals. I think if you just want to do something simple and quick, that's what you're going to go with, but then they match so well with these greens. And I think that the way that Melt tends to lay out their palettes makes it very easy to incorporate the colors with one another. It just makes sense. So I love this palette for that reason. Another Melt palette that I have is the Rust palette. I actually broke my no-buy this year for this. When I first started 2020, I was going to do a no-buy, and then 2020 happened, and I'm like, you know what? I have a little bit more time at times on the weekends to do reviews and everything, so I just figured, you know, to hell with it. So I did the Rust palette. I love this because, again, it's beautiful, grungy fall neutrals. I absolutely love the packaging. I did do a review of this palette as well, and I just think it is so stunning. You can use this any season, I think, but you have really beautiful browns here, and then you have the yellow, and then you have this almost like salmon-y type color right here, and then the cream shade. I just think it is a beautiful palette and so easy to work with. If you want an easy palette to work with from Melt, if you're newer to their formula, this is the best one to do it with. I have a couple things from some mainstream brands here. So I'm going to start off with Too Faced. This is the Pumpkin Spice. I love that this looks like a pumpkin pie and it has the whipped cream writing on it. I did a swatch party with this palette, so I'll leave that link up above. I just love that this smells like pumpkin spice. It has a really nice balance of some warm tones, but a little bit of cool tones have been thrown in here, as well as more pastel, kind of surprising shades. I'm going to bring this up to the camera so you could see it a bit better, but I just think it has such a nice array and variety of shades. It's not the typical like toasty, warm eyeshadow palette that normally is released during this time of year. The purples and the greens are a really nice balance to this, I think. So I've surprisingly enjoyed this palette a lot, and it's still for sale, I believe. So if you want to get your hands on a good Too Faced palette, I highly recommend this one. I have two ABH palettes to talk about. The first one is the Subculture palette. I love this thing. I remember when this first came out, I went out to Ulta and bought it. I think it is such a beautiful, deep and dark palette, particularly on this end right here, and then you have some of these lighter shades right here. As you can see, I've played with this palette a lot. There's a lot of indentation. It's one of the oldest palettes in my collection. I remember when this was first released, it was kind of teased as a companion palette to the Modern Renaissance. It actually came out a full year after Modern Renaissance, when ABH was very rarely or very sparingly releasing palettes, and I remember just picking this up and finding it so much fun because I think it has such unique colors. Like, yeah, you have the green in here and the brown, but then you have this like really interesting orangey shade and the mustard and the gray and like the really deep kind of turquoisey shade and the deep purple, and I love the shimmers in here too. I just think it's a really special palette, so I'm hoping I could get another year's use out of this for sure. To expand upon ABH, I'm going to talk about my Modern Renaissance palette. This is the oldest palette in my collection, and I think it is a wonderful fall staple to have. I know so many brands have now kind of come out with their own version of this palette, but as you can see, mine is very, very well loved. I have a lot of pan in my palette, and I love it for the, you know, really neutral shades that you have right here, but the pops of the berries and the warmer tones. My favorite shade in here is Love Letter. It's just such a beautiful, deep pink shade, and it's one of my favorites, and I've hit pan in it, and I think they sell it as singles, so whenever I do finish up this shade, I would definitely finish up this shade. That was really hard to say. I definitely plan on picking it up as a single. I just think it's a beautiful palette, very versatile, and I remember I've given many of these as gifts over the holidays too. So if you're ever looking for just a really good staple, easy to work with, ABH fantastic formula, this is the one, Modern Renaissance. I have a couple of smaller palettes to talk about now. So this is the colored Raine Beauty Rust palette. I don't know if anyone ever talks about this. I think this is such a beautiful, deep and dark, grungy palette. And you're gonna hear me say grungy a lot because those are the tones I kind of gravitate towards, particularly during this season. So this is what it looks like up close. As you can see, it is fairly dark. You have this olivey green, you have the red right here, and then the deeper kind of purpley browns. And I love this thing. It's simple, it's easy, it's only 6 shades. So if you're looking for a really good smaller palette option, I highly recommend this one. I have so many, I have a bunch of Colourpop to talk about. Should we talk about Colourpop next? I'm thinking so. Let me just get all these out. I'm going to show you the one I'm wearing today. This is the Whatever palette, and I love this palette from Colourpop. First of all, I love the packaging of it, but this is the palette of my burgundy fall dreams. And it's what I have on today, and then this is what it looks like. Isn't it so pretty? So I love this one because it has the burgundies, the red, a little bit of hints of orange here and there, and then the beautiful gold glitter and the browns, of course. So I used a bunch of these shades. I did use the glitter on the inner corner, and this glitter is actually really easy to use for a kind of a pressed-in pan glitter, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I find that there's very minimal fallout and it sticks to where it's put. So I do have to commend them on that. There's also two Super Shock shades, I believe, in this. It's Tardy and then Not Okay, or maybe it might just be Tardy, but either way, this is just a really beautiful Super Shock for that impact. Here's just some swatches of some of the shades in this palette that I think are really, really quite pretty. So if you're looking for a really fun fall burgundy palette, this is the one to go for. It's also vegan, I do want to mention that. Another one that is, let's see, this one is vegan too. This is the Little Ray of Sunshine palette from Colourpop. First of all, I'm a sucker for sunflowers, and when I originally saw this, I'm like, oh, they're totally getting people with the sunflower theme. But I do want to say I'm really happy I have this palette. It is better, I believe, than the Honey because I think it has more depth to it. So I love that it's all mattes to begin with, but I've used this several times and I think the quality is excellent. You have more depth with the yellow, more of like that bright sunflower yellow, but you have more muted yellows as well, and you have a little bit more depth. Things tend to go a little bit reddish right here in the center, and then a little bit brown towards the end. There's still that yellow base, but I just think those undertones change a little bit. And then of course a really good cream shade at the corner. I just think this was really easy to use, and it's a great companion palette to other things. So if you have a bunch of Super Shock shadows from Colourpop, I think they would really pair nicely with this as well. So highly recommend this one for more of those kind of yellow tones, especially in the beginning of the fall when we transition from summer. I do think this is a beautiful summer palette as well, but I really like using this in the fall. Then I have to talk about one of my favorite palettes of all time. This is probably still in my top 10, ride or die. If I could only keep like a couple of palettes, this is always going to make the list. This is the Good Sport from Colourpop. I'm so sad that they no longer have this. I feel like they should just reissue it because people love this palette. I love this palette. I want to say this came out in the fall of either 2017 or 2018. I want to say 2018. I just think it's such a beautiful, unique color story. You have the greens, the purples, and the browns. I love the shimmers. Rookie is my favorite shade, and if you guys have been watching me, you're probably like, Amy, stop talking about Rookie, but it's a beautiful burnt orange shimmer with purple in it, and it is a stunning, just absolutely stunning shade. So that's it right there. And I love putting it all over the lid. I'm again so sad that this palette's not available because I just think the combination of colors for the time that it came out in was just so unique, and Colourpop hit it out of the park with this. The last Colourpop palette I'm going to talk about is a newer palette. This is the Hocus Pocus Gather Around Sisters palette. I feel so bad because I feel like they handled the launch of this so terribly. I was very lucky. A friend of mine went into Ulta a couple days before this was actually released through Colourpop's website, and they had put out the display for this, so that's how I was able to get this. She picked one up for me, which I thought was really, really sweet of her. I just think it's so cool. It has the black flame candle in the corner, and I love Hocus Pocus so much. I think this palette is great. I love the artwork of the Sanderson sisters there. And then the shades, again, nice, beautiful, deep, grungy shades. And you have more kind of purpley shades, green shades, some neutrals in there, and then some pretty browns as well. There is more of a kind of like champagne-y silver here, if I can even describe it as that. That is wench. I always picture Billy saying that in, in the movie when he goes wench. Let's see. Isn't that such a pretty shade? And then let me show you, there's some really beautiful colors in here. I'm going to show you Yabos, which I think is funny that they named a shade after that, and then Brew Potion, which is the glitter. Because this glitter in this palette is so creamy. It's not like this thick, chunky glitter. It almost goes on like a normal Super Shock shadow. So there we go. Here's some of the shades. That's this is Wench, this is Yabos, and then this is Brew Potion right here. I think they're so pretty. That glitter's just like, it's wonderful, and I absolutely love it. So I really hope that Colourpop restocks. I just think, again, the way that they launched this was terrible. People waited for hours. They couldn't get in. They waited in line. It sold out, and then it's like, will they do a restock? Who knows? I really hope they do for people, because this was like, I feel like most of us, like 90s kids, we grew up on Hocus Pocus, and I know so many other people are big fans, so they're definitely playing up that nostalgia factor. And yeah, but it is actually a really good palette. Like, it's not a bad palette. I wish I could say, oh, don't worry, you missed out on it. Don't worry about it because it's not good, but it is actually a really good formulation too. I like working with this a lot. So now for probably one of the more neutral palettes that I have here. This is the Menagerie Killer Purr palette. First of all, how stinking cute is this packaging? I absolutely love the glossy finish. It's got a great weight to it. They're an independent vegan brand. You have that aqua color down in the corner. You have that bright yellow, but pretty much everything's very muted. Gray, green, orange, and I love it. There's only 2 shimmers in this, and everything else is a matte. And I do want to say the mattes are really, really buttery and creamy. I think this is a really great dupe for the Natasha Denona Safari palette as well. And I know most recently Kylie Cosmetics, I think, came out with some kind of like it's like this animalistic animal print kind of collection. I don't think it's dropped yet, or it's about to drop, but it kind of reminded me of this too. So this is a really, really great formula and nice for just kind of everyday neutrals, but not like boring neutrals. Like there's a little bit of something in there. All right, another absolute favorite of mine is the Nomad palette from Juvia's Place. Oh, guys. Again, there's a lot of greens in my fall collection just because I'm drawn to these kind of colors. This is a beautiful and diverse palette. You have those olive green, but also kind of that marigold yellow in there, the cream, the orange, and then these deep kind of grayish greens, which I think are quite unique, and then a shimmer in there. I love working with Juvia's Place formula. I think it is so buttery smooth, easy to work with, and I highly recommend this palette. You can sometimes get these for on sale, I think like under 10 bucks. So when Juvia's has a sale, definitely pick this one up. I like it because it's a bit smaller than some of their other palettes, but I think it's a great value and a great unique color story. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this palette's also vegan as well. Another vegan palette, I think a bunch more that I have to show you are as well. This is the Strobe Cosmetics, which is now Shroud Cosmetics. This is the Divinity palette. This is so pretty. I love this so much for the purple in here and the orange, and another really unique, beautiful color story, very easy to work with. I like that it's a little bit on the smaller side, that there's a great variety here, but it's just so easy to work with. The colors complement one another so well, and when I look at this, I just see a bunch of looks that I can put together. Nabla. I originally was going to declutter this back in the summer. This is their Poison Garden palette. Nabla is, now they're really easily accessible. I think they're sold online at Ulta now, but they are an Italian indie brand, and again, all their products are vegan. This is Poison Garden. First of all, let me just show you the packaging because it really is like a piece of art. I think it is beautiful. They always have such really good color stories, very pretty packaging. Now, originally when looking at this, I think it's quite pretty because there's that touch of berry, you have those honey shades, you've got a decent kind of grayish black in there, and a bunch of browns and neutrals. But then you have the surprisingly pop of blue. Remember when it was like in fashion to do a pop of blue in every palette? But I don't like this blue. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I just found it a little bit lackluster, but that being said, I love the rest of the shades in this palette, and that's why I ended up taking it out of my declutter and just putting it back in my collection because it really is quite pretty. Okay, so that's the honey shade right here. That's Berry Bite, and then this one right here is Rosita, which is like a really pretty icy pink shade, like a beautiful metallic shade. I have one more thing from Too Faced here. I want to throw this in here because I just enjoy it so much, but you can't get it anymore, unfortunately. This is their Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. This was a QVC or HSN exclusive, I can't remember which one, last year during the fall, and it smells like pumpkin spice. I just love the formula in here. I think some of these metallics are some of the nicest metallics that Too Faced has ever put in any of their palettes. I like the kind of pumpkin-y, orangey shades that they have in here with a hint of a little bit of pink and purple, but I think it's got a really nice, beautiful balance of the pumpkin shades. So this one right here is Pretty as a Pumpkin, and then this one is one of the shimmers, Dream Big. I just think it's so pretty. For those who like peaches, I know peach is really good in August and then kind of transitioning into the fall, but for those who do like those peachy shades into this season, I highly recommend Klarity Cosmetics. This is the Juicy Peach Pressed Pigment Palette. Again, another cruelty-free vegan Black-owned brand as well. First of all, I love peaches. You guys know how I am. I have a saying that I've said for years, and it's just, you're a peach. Thanks, peach. You're sweet as a peach. It's just kind of something in my vernacular that I say on the daily. But this palette puts any other peach palette to shame. The depth that you get in this. First of all, let me bring this up close because look at these beautiful, peachy, creamy, blendable shades. So I love this because peaches are actually these kind of shades. You know, you have this more like really traditional peach here, but then, you know, peaches kind of come in this color. Sometimes they get a little bit, they have that kind of definition of the pit right here. Look at the swatches. Like, look at that pigmentation. I just want more from them. I can't believe how good the pigmentation of this is. This formula is far superior to so many mainstream brands. And the owner recently had a baby too, so congratulations, my dear. I don't think I can mention fall palettes without mentioning this one, because when I look at this, this just screams Halloween to me. And I remember when this came out last year, I ended up getting it, I think around Black Friday. I waited till after Halloween to get it, but this aesthetically is so stunning. This is the Moonspell palette from Lunar Beauty. This is Manny MUA's line. It is so well thought out. It looks like a beautiful book. Look at the detail on the back too. Isn't that beautiful? I love the detail that goes into it. Even this looks just like pages right here, the gold detail, and the colors of course are stunning, because you could kind of see quads in here as well, but the shades perform really well. Great colors. I love that there's these turquoises, the greens, the purples, the browns, and these really interesting kind of unique shades that top over really well. Let me just show you Phoebe and Prue. There we go. Those are those right there at the bottom. We have made it to the last palette, and I have one more ABH palette for you. This is from the Norvina collection. I've actually, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but now they've kind of like, this is just called like Norvina Cosmetics. Like, it's no longer the umbrella under, well, it's not under the umbrella of ABH anymore. Have you guys noticed that? I'm like kind of curious to see what else will happen. I have a feeling like it's from all the backlash that they received from kind of pumping out these products so intensely last year. However, these pro palettes, I love the formula of them. The pigments are just so smooth and buttery. This one is volume 3. I love it because it has the beautiful little butterflies all over it, but I love this because it's so versatile. It's got some bright shades. So if you want brighter shades for the fall, but with a nice balance of some deeper shades, this is definitely the palette. You have pinks, purples, greens, yellow, really beautiful shimmers, oranges. You have some neon shades across the top and a bit of red as well. It's really well balanced. I think it's very easy to use. Personally, I think these colors really go well together. So although you might be like, oh, that's kind of a big palette, I do think it's user friendly. I think if you could pop these out and kind of rearrange them how you would like as well, if it's just kind of too much and all over the place. But sometimes I think that you can see certain quads here too. Not that you have to use these that way, but I think there's just a really nice balance of shades. I'll show you one of my favorite shimmer shades. This is C5. This is almost like a, how would I describe it? This is a green with some gold shift in it. Let's see, that's that one right there. Really, really pretty. So that is it, my friends. We have reached all the palettes that I have in my collection that I think are fall themed and that I think are wonderful and perform really well. What are your favorite fall palettes? What are you using this fall? Please comment down below. If you have made it this far, thank you so much. Comment a little peach emoji down in the comments section below. And until next time, remember to stay compassionate and chic. Bye!